One day, I'm gonna build a studio. But today is not that day. I want to do an unboxing of this wonderful creation, Harrow County. The second game we've done together with Off the Page Games and Jay Cormier. The first one being Mind Management. Mind Management was I think the second 3D animated video we've done. I was still figuring out Blender then. It's funny because it's the only video I think we have a remastered version of, because I did the first version, I didn't know almost anything about Blender, figuring it out as I go, and then they did the reprinting, so we wanted to create a new version of the video with the updated components. So by then I learned a lot more, and we had like a better version of the video. And about a year later, Jay came back to do the Harrow County video. And if you don't know about Off the Page Games, they do wonderful work of amazing, heavy, massive games with so much content based on very niche comic books. So this is about Mind Management. Again, a wonderful comic book. I highly recommend it, about like spy and espionage, and it's like, what if it was X-Men, but everyone just had psychic powers of certain kinds, which is really cool. And Harrow County is a gothic horror comic book about demons and spirits and a girl with abilities, and it is so weird. But what I love about these projects is I love doing my research. So I always say, let's read the comic book so I know how the fan base thinks, because I want to become a fan myself. So first of all, these are clearly works of passion. What was special about the Mind Management box, that it had all these Easter eggs hidden on it, and little scribbles, little hidden messages. This one comes in a literal satchel. Okay, you can literally take this with you, and you can see like the hand of the skinless boy like sticking out of that, and that's one of the characters in the game. Just to give you an idea, it's just the skin of a boy that is sort of following the hero around and giving her advice and tips, because the rest of his body is elsewhere, so it could spy and then talk through his skin. It's weird. So here's the box. Okay, this is the deluxe version. Very, very colorful. As you can see, you can already see there is this tree here. The tree is very important to the narrative, which is why we put a lot of emphasis of it into the video itself, because it's iconic. But the cool thing about this tree in the game itself, that this tree, if you notice, there's a hole. Okay, look, there's a hole here and a hole on top. That's because this is actually a dice tower built into the box. Well, how does that work? Well, let's see. Let's start by opening this. So one of the things that we did for the video, we wanted to really bring the comic book panels to life, which I feel like is pretty obvious when you're doing something that's based on a comic book. But the interesting thing was, what do we do for the rest of the 3D animation? So here's the rule book. Let's see if we can see some, here we go. This is perfect. This is exactly what we need. This image was our inspiration for the environment, for the 3D. We said, let's take this, recreate this in 3D. We'll take the textures from the building, we'll take the texture of this tree, and then we'll try to basically make it a 3D living comic book. And we tried playing with a little trick that you can do with textures, that 3D textures, that they'll have this black outline around them. So it doesn't matter from which angle you look at it, it looks like it's part of a cartoon. You have a piece of more lore for anyone that is unaware of the comic book. You have this newspaper inside, which I think is wonderful. This is great. Yeah, God, it's such a good comic book. And you have a little baggie here, and this board. So at first, we try to use that texture on all of the components. All of the components, even though this is how they realistically look like, we gave them this sort of comic booky black outline. And while I thought it was really cool, I'm always trying to keep in mind that we're still trying to convey that this is a product. This is how the product looks like, and this is how it feels, how to play it. Okay, so it's always really important to keep that in mind. So as much as we like going crazy with our creativity and in our videos, we always need to keep our goals straight. Okay, this is a game. So after our first draft and getting some very acute feedback from Jay, we decided to bump everything up to realistic textures, while the world around it and the background feels like a comic books. And here's the characters. So that came out, I think, really well. And the thing is, this game is so dense. It's essentially a two-player game, okay? And it's weird because it's so much more. Because you're playing these factions. You can play the protectors or the family, okay, which are like these. I don't know if you even call them evil, but they're these spirits which control the destinies of things that happen, bad dreams, malevolence. So it's cool because each character comes in with a tray specifically for them. So you just need to take this out, then you can just start playing right away. And I always appreciate that, because one of the things that is really difficult with board games is setup time, because you're just like, it's gonna take me so long to set up, I don't want to play the game. And then you just, the task of setting up a game could sometimes just deflate wanting to, or starting to play the game. So here you can see Emmy, the little girl, and together with her friends, and my favorite character, Malachi. Trays, okay, so here we have all the characters that you can choose. So you have like a special character that you can play with as in the game. So even if you chose a specific faction, within that faction you can play one time with Emmy, you can play with her best friend slash enemy, Bernice, a little bit of a spoiler there, not really, or you can play as the lovely skinless boy, which I talked about, and Malachi, my favorite. He's a good boy. And we also have here, let's jump right to it, these adorable miniatures. Okay, so you can see these little tiny miniatures. These are what's called the haints. Okay, the haints is basically a word for all the spirits that live in this world. And you can see they have a little tiny hole in their ear that will come to play later. You have these mason jars, which are essentially your actions. So each turn you have 4 actions to choose from. If you want to use one of them, you flip it and break it, which is also what I love about these games, is that every single like mechanic ties directly into the comic book in one way or another. You have a bunch of these tokens, and here are the townfolk meeple, which you need to rescue, because Emmy is trying to rescue her town and bring them to safety, while at the same time they are basically hating her and trying to kill her themselves. So it's a very complex tale. I mean, even her dad tries to kill her at a certain point, which is awful. A very dark tale, but it is totally worth it. And you got the little cards, tactics and things like that. And most importantly, you get these cubes, which are packed in so nicely it's hard to get them out. But these cubes are essentially how you fight in the game. Okay, and in order to do that, you need to put them inside the tower. But it won't work now because I don't have the actual box. I need to connect the box back to this for the tower to work. So why don't we give that a try? Prop it up. Okay, and you have this tray which you can put to catch the cubes as they come down. But that's the thing, not all of them are gonna come out. Because that's the beautiful thing about it. You need to put the cubes on the top. So suppose you have 4 attack or 5, putting it in. Okay, only 4 came out, which means 1 is stuck somewhere in there. And it's not gonna come out unless it's pushed by future cubes. So you never know if an attack is gonna work out the way you think it is. And sometimes you never know in a future attack if some of your other dice or cubes are gonna come out. Here I only got 2 out of 4. Isn't that insane? So what an elegant design. That is one of the things I love about board games. There's always something to surprise you. Always something interesting. And I said in the beginning, this is sort of a two-player game because once you play it the first time, you realize there's a way to incorporate more players and more factions. For example, you can play as Cammy, which is Emmy's sister. I wouldn't say twin sister. The story's weird, so you can play her, and she has all these other different characters. Oh, and I forgot to mention, each one of these factions plays completely differently. They're completely asymmetrical, meaning you're playing essentially a different game. So when you're playing Emmy, you need to build a trail and you need to connect it. And if you're playing with the family, the evil family, you're playing a bag building game where you're trying to create the best combination of tokens inside the bag. If you're playing as Cammy, then you're trying to search for her lost doll. Yes, I know, the story is weird, but if you read it, it makes sense. But then you can bring in the witch Hester. And if you watch the video, Hester is right there at the start. She starts the story. The townfolk decide to kill her because she seems evil to them. Truth is, she's pretty evil. And that's the whole thing, is her, Emmy comes out of the same tree. She's born out of the tree which they hung Hester on. So everyone, is very fearful of Emmy. Is she the same witch reincarnated, or is she something else? So a third player can come in and play as this witch and try to affect the other players by infecting their brains with these snakes. Let me see if I can find the snakes. Here they are. Okay, so the snakes are over here. Okay, we have the roots of the tree, and this is what we did. That's something really cool in the video, because we had to convey everything that I'm talking about in that video. And suddenly Hester comes in, we see the roots like growing out of the ground, and these little snakes will come in and go into the Haint's ears. And this happens in the comics book. The snakes actually go into people's ears. You can literally have them like this with the snake pointing out. And that means that she's starting to influence the Haints, and she's trying to get them to come together. The two other characters come together, and then that can lead her to eventually win. But I'm definitely looking forward to trying this out and playing this finally. This is perfect for me because I mostly play two-player games, so I'm really looking forward to diving into this. The cool thing about it is really you can play just the basic version, and that would still be a good game, or you can dive in really, really deep, discover more. We have here an expansion. We have here, oh wow, that sounds interesting. Let's open this up. I don't even know what this is. Now this should be the tray where you can get but why is it clinking like that? Oh, right, I forgot about these. Wow. Okay, so these are basically the different abilities that you can do and upgrades. You're placing these on the boards. Okay, that's what goes into these dual layers. And as again, the different characters work differently, but as they get stronger, you can get more of these or place them, add them. But these are beautiful. I forgot these are metal. This is lovely. Love that sound. And this is the tray where the cubes go to. Okay, so yes, this was a joy to animate, and I really felt like we managed to convey also the story without, overloading with details. There was a witch, she was born, this is Cammy, she needs to now save the town. That's it. So we're catering both to the comic book fans, which was important. For them, it's such an easy sell because here's a game based on the comic book they love. And then we are catering to fans of, I just cracked my knuckle there, of like heavy two-player asymmetrical board games. We're going right out the gate. You're playing different factions. They play completely differently. And there's more to this game. There's way, way more. showing that you can change different factions. There's a third faction that comes in, and then we're starting to throw in all these, what I like to call, but wait, there's more, okay? There is the dice tower, there is these, the snakes that stick in the ears, there's all these components, and then there's more to it beyond what we showed in the video. There's different characters that you can use, there's different scenarios you can run, you can maybe, there's the other side of the board, which looks differently. There's so much in this game. And none of it feels like you have to do it. So you can really feel free to explore it. And it's really a game of exploration. That's what this comic book feels like. So you see it all sort of mirrors through. You can stay within your town and just play this 2-player game, or you can explore and go to the world beyond and see all these strange, wonderful creatures to battle and ally with. So thank you, Jay, so much for sending me the copy. And I can't wait to unveil the next one that we're having that's coming up. Okay, Corpse of Discovery. We're just putting the finishing touches on the video for that. Look for that in April. I think Jay just gets better from game to game, and they're all stellar. And thank you for watching. Share, like, and subscribe, and do all that stuff if you like this. Hopefully one day I'll get a better background. Okay, need to press the button. I forgot to connect my Bluetooth remote.